Yo, what is up, Earthlings? It's Joshledore and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to explore the mysterious US military defense program known as HAARP. HAARP, for those who don't know, is the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, which is based out of Alaska. And this top secret program has been going on for years now, and there is a lot of mystery surrounding what is going on at HAARP. So with any type of top secret military program or base, it's going to create a lot of controversy, and it's going to cause people to look into the actual intentions of that program or what is actually going on at that base, because the military and the government tell us one thing, but it's possible that something else entirely is going on there. And this is the case with HAARP. In fact, many respected researchers have alleged that HAARP actually has secret electromagnetic warfare capabilities. Many of these researchers have also gone as far to say that HAARP may have the ability to modify the weather or do something that's called geoengineering. So it could have the ability to not only change weather patterns, but it could have the ability to create a massive weather event such as a tsunami, an earthquake, a hurricane, a tornado. I mean, it could create any of these on the drop of a dime, according to these researchers. And that HAARP may have the ability to cause one of these weather events to occur at a pinpointed location anywhere in the world. So obviously these are very bold claims, and they're just claims, guys. We don't know for sure if this is what HAARP's intentions are or if it was actually created for this. We really have no idea, because the HAARP program officially says that HAARP is a scientific endeavor aimed at studying the properties and behavior of the ionosphere, with particular emphasis on being able to understand and use it to enhance communications and surveillance systems for both civilian and defense purposes. So according to the program's officials, they're just saying that this is basically a research facility. There's nothing that has to do with weather modification or weaponizing the weather in any way, shape, or form. This is purely for research on ionospheric phenomena, basically. Things that are happening in the ionosphere and how it may affect communications with satellites and radios and things like that. But not everybody is so sure. And while this program was active, it was a top secret program. So you had to have top secret clearance in order to enter the facility. It was not open to the public. It was heavily guarded and therefore kept a secret for many years. And another thing to note is that according to HAARP's official website, which I'll link in the description for you guys, they're saying that the experiments that are conducted, which use electromagnetic frequencies to fire pulsed directed energy beams in order to temporarily excite a limited area of the ionosphere. So this is the type of experiments that they're doing. They are sending directed energy up into the ionosphere, but it sounds like they're more playing with the ionosphere to see if they can create different types of situations. I mean, who knows exactly what they're doing, but according to the official website, they are just saying they're doing experiments basically with the ionosphere. But what's interesting is that some scientists have stated that purposefully disturbing this sensitive layer or the ionosphere could have major and disastrous consequences. And because of this HAARP program, it has caused researchers and scientists to investigate themselves what might actually be going on at HAARP. If in fact they're just harmlessly experimenting with the ionosphere, or if there's something more sinister going on. Now, one of these HAARP researchers is author Nick Begich, and he has done a lot of research around HAARP, and what he has to say about HAARP is very interesting and fuels these claims that HAARP may be weaponizing the weather.
What do you think they're doing?
What it's doing is it's literally heating up the ionosphere, which is about 30 miles above the Earth's surface, and then it pushes it out. So what happens then is the pressure systems in that region change, and jet streams moving in that area create a huge downstream effect, and one that cannot be accurately predicted.
So affecting something in one part of the world could potentially affect something on the other side.
Yes.
So as you just saw, it's very interesting that Nick Begich thinks that HAARP may be responsible for some of the tsunamis and earthquakes that we've seen around the world, and that HAARP may in fact have the capability of weaponizing the weather.
But if you could create a resonance signal that allowed that energy to release at a specific point in time, at a specific place, you could then direct it as a weapon. HAARP is like the triggering mechanism for taking the energy within the Earth and manipulating it in specific ways for weapons applications. That's turning the Earth into a weapon.
I know this may seem scary to some, but I think it's important that we seek out the truth around many of these top secret programs, including HAARP. So let's dive into this further. So before we talk about some of the conspiracies around HAARP and some of the events that HAARP may have caused, let's take a look at the history of it real quick. So the HAARP program was created in 1990 by Republican Ted Stevens, who was a U.S. Senator from Alaska, and he helped win approval for this facility. Now, work on the HAARP facility actually began in 1993 in Gakona, Alaska. What's also interesting is that HAARP took years to build and was a very expensive project. By the time they were done, it took nearly $290 million in order to build this research facility, along with the large field of high-capacity transmitters that almost look like antennas all lined up next to each other. Now, in order for you guys to get a better idea of what it looks like exactly, here's a quick video clip of the actual facility so you can have a better idea of what I'm talking about when we're talking about these transmitters, or IRIs as they're known, that are able to produce this energy beam. Now, I'm no expert, but I gotta say, HAARP looks very odd, very weird. It's very interesting to think that they've got all of these... Now, I'm no expert, but it's pretty interesting to think that they've got this large facility out in the middle of Alaska where they have these high capacity transformers, or whatever you want to call them, that may have the ability to create a mass amount of energy, and not only create the energy but beam it up into the ionosphere and possibly reflect it back down onto the Earth. Alright, so now that we know what HAARP is, what its capabilities might be, let's take a look at some of the conspiracy theories surrounding HAARP and what may actually be going on at this facility. So like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, HAARP has been a subject of numerous conspiracy theories over the years, and a lot of people have been questioning its motives and intentions, and questioning what exactly is going on at HAARP and what is the capacity of this facility. And obviously the number one theory for what HAARP is used for is weather modification. It is something that we are able to do. According to Professor Michael Czelatdko of the University of Ottawa's Emeritus Professor of Economics, he actually said in an article that rarely acknowledged in the debate on climate change, the world's weather can now be modified as part of a new generation of sophisticated electromagnetic weapons. Both the US and Russia have developed capabilities to manipulate the climate for military use. He went on to say that environmental modification techniques have been applied by the US military for more than half a century, and that US mathematician John von Neumann, in liaison with the US Department of Defense, started his research on weather modification in the late 1940s, at the height of the Cold War, and foresaw forms of climatic warfare as yet unimagined. And during the Vietnam War, cloud seeding techniques were used starting in 1967 under Project Popeye, the objective which was to prolong the monsoon season and block enemy supply routes along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Very interesting and very true facts being said here. We did use cloud seeding as a method to prolong the monsoon season during the Vietnam War. This is confirmed fact, and as you can probably tell, we have been trying to manipulate the weather for military use for a long time now. This is not a fake thing. This is a fact, guys. We have been trying to modify the weather for military use in the past. So why couldn't HAARP have the ability to modify the weather? In the article, the professor went on to say that the US military has developed advanced capabilities that enable it to selectively alter weather patterns. The technology, which is being perfected under the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, or HAARP, is an appendage of the Strategic Defense Initiative. And from a military standpoint, HAARP is a weapon of mass destruction operating from the outer atmosphere and capable of destabilizing agricultural and ecological systems all around the world. So he made a very bold claim saying that HAARP is the example of the US military developing a weapon essentially in order to modify the weather. I mean, I don't know how it gets any clearer than that, but it does seem like HAARP may be being used in order to weaponize the weather. And if you think about this logically for a second, clearly, why wouldn't the militaries of the world or whoever's in charge or the powers that be, why would they not want the ability to weaponize the weather or modify it? Because if you think about it, if they have the ability to control the weather, control the climate, they're essentially able to control a lot of different things that happen and are able to manipulate not only the climate, but they're also able to manipulate the population by causing natural disasters occur, and then in turn blaming Mother Earth or the planet for causing them. So this does raise a lot of questions about what is HAARP actually used for. What's also interesting is that weather modification is not a new thing to the US military, and according to a US Air Force document AF 2025 final report titled Weather as a Force Multiplier, Owning the Weather in 2025, it says that it offers the warfighter a wide range of possible options to defeat or coerce an adversary, which includes the ability to trigger floods, hurricanes, droughts, and earthquakes. And this goes on to explain the value that such technology such as HAARP would provide the military. So obviously this is a great military weapon, it's a great weapon to use against your enemies, so why wouldn't they want this ability to control the weather? So now that we know the US military and probably other militaries around the world have been researching and trying to figure out how to weaponize the weather and modify it in order to use it to their advantage, let's take a look at some of the weather events that have occurred over the years that many people have blamed on HAARP actually. Over the years, HAARP has been blamed for triggering catastrophes such as floods, droughts, hurricanes, thunderstorms, earthquakes in Iran, Pakistan, Haiti, Turkey, Greece, and the Philippines, including major power outages, the downing of numerous airplanes, Gulf War syndrome, and chronic fatigue syndrome. Obviously, these are bold claims, and we don't know for sure whether or not HAARP is responsible for these, but these are just some of the examples of events that have happened or catastrophes that have happened that people have blamed HAARP for, and in essence, weather modification. Some other interesting allegations around HAARP include the following. This is interesting, guys. The European Parliament and the Alaska State Legislature held hearings about HAARP, formally citing environmental concerns. And what's also interesting is that researcher and author Nick Begich, who I featured earlier in this video, has also made claims that HAARP could be responsible for earthquakes, and it could turn the upper atmosphere into a giant lens so that the sky could literally appear to burn. And he's also made claims that HAARP may even be a mind control device.
HAARP can control minds.
Absolutely can control in the sense of changing mental function.
Do we have any evidence that HAARP or any other government agency is actively right now trying to change the way people think?
Yes, I think we do.
You think we do, or you know we do?
I know we do. This technology is possible with this instrument, and the only question is, have they done it?
Crazy, right? I mean, for all we know, this could be true. HAARP could be some sort of mind control device. It could have the ability to create earthquakes and skyquakes, which would explain those mysterious booming noises that we're hearing all over the world. That's what's so interesting, and that's actually one of the things that is the biggest evidence for HAARP, is that all of these mysterious booming sounds and odd noises or trumpet noises, I mean, it's endless. It is very odd that these noises have no source of origination. We have no idea where they're coming from. So a lot of people think that HAARP could be the explanation for this.
Okay, now, if HAARP can manipulate the ionosphere, it can cause sound as a byproduct of what is happening.
Just recording it in the air.
Just coming out of the sky.
What about the potential of using HAARP to create earthquakes? Do you think that that's possible?
If you get sufficient intensity, probably.
So to generate that kind of sound and to have it come from the sky, you know of no other method?
No.
So creepy and odd, right? I mean, we have no idea where these noises are coming from. Nobody's been able to figure it out. So why couldn't they be coming from a top secret research program or facility such as HAARP? It's possible. Another thing I wanted to mention is that a lot of people just think that this is crazy conspiracy talk when talking about HAARP as a way to weaponize the weather or to modify the weather. A lot of people just ignore it and just throw it aside and call it bullshit and just say that it doesn't have this ability because that's what the HAARP officials have told us, is that it's just a research research facility, and there is no harm being done by this program. And if you know anything at all about conspiracy theories, especially about theories surrounding top secret research programs and military bases, we all know that they are not telling us the whole truth, if any part of the truth at all. In fact, they're probably lying to us most of the time. So I found it interesting when former governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura, questioned whether the government was using the site to manipulate the weather or to bombard people with mind-controlling radio waves. So this is an ex-governor that believes that HAARP may have more sinister intentions. But I could go on and on about HAARP all day. There's so much information around it. There's so much research that's been done about it, but I'm going to leave you guys with this, and this is some of the events that people have blamed HAARP for. And those events include that HAARP may have caused the disappearance of MH370, that Malaysian's airline flight that just disappeared in thin air, it seems like. It may have crashed into the ocean, it may have just disappeared. We don't know because we've never found this plane. So perhaps HAARP had something to do with the disappearance of flight MH370. Many people believe that HAARP may have caused the massive 2011 Japanese earthquake because data released by NASA showed strange atmospheric anomalies over Japan just a few days before the massive earthquake struck in 2011. Many people think that not only could it have caused this earthquake, but it could have been used as a strategic move in order to further political agendas as well as military agendas. It is very possible. Some other events include the earthquake in Haiti in 2010. In fact, Hugo Chavez, the former president of Venezuela, claimed that the United States Navy induced the Haiti earthquake using a weather weapon and accusing the United States of playing God. So the former leader of Venezuela even believes that we may have modified the weather in order to induce this earthquake on Haiti. Now, things get even crazier because some people believe that HAARP may be responsible for the Columbia space shuttle disaster. In fact, this is one of the most prominent theories out there, and people believe that HAARP may have led to the loss of the space shuttle Columbia in February 2003, and that the space shuttle Columbia was used as some sort of target practice for HAARP. And I mean, this is pretty far out there because obviously we don't want to believe that they would do something like this, but it's very possible, guys. Others also believe that some of these major hurricanes, including the recent ones like Harvey and Irma and Maria, may have also been intentionally caused by HAARP. Not only that, guys, but many people have taken photographs and released pictures showing odd weather formations above the HAARP facility, as well as cloud formations. So there's just all sorts of eeriness around this facility and around many of these weather events that have occurred around the world. And at a very basic level, we think that HAARP may have the ability to direct a huge mass amount of energy up into the ionosphere, where it's then reflected off of the ionosphere back onto the Earth at a pinpointed location that they choose. And that is very scary to think about. Again, we do not know whether or not this is true or not. This could be completely false and completely bullshit for all we know. Maybe HAARP is just a harmless research facility. We just don't know for sure. But this is interesting, and this is where I'll end the video because I think it's important to know this part of it. And that's what is the official word on all these conspiracy theories when HAARP officials are asked about it. So this is the response from a HAARP official named Sue Mitchell, who was the facility's public information officer, and she said that, to be frank, HAARP cannot do the things the conspiracy theorists accuse it of being able to do. It's not capable of causing hurricanes or reading minds or making caribou walk backward or any of the millions of things it's been accused of. It's a completely harmless research facility, which, again, maybe that's true. Maybe she's lying in order to cover up all these things that have happened. We just don't know. But what's interesting about HAARP that a lot of people don't know is that HAARP as a U.S. military defense program actually shut down in 2014. They actually shut the facility down, according to official reports. And what happened is that in 2015, they actually ended the HAARP program itself, and instead they turned over the HAARP facility to the University of Alaska for them to use to further the research that was being done there. Which, if this was some sort of massive weapon that the US military had in order to modify the weather, why would they just be handing over the keys to the University of Alaska? I don't know, right? Because why would they do that? Wouldn't they just destroy the facility if they were done with it, or cover up the evidence? And the fact that they just willingly handed over the facility to the University of Alaska in order for them to continue the harmless research that's going on there is very interesting, and honestly makes it very hard to believe a lot of the conspiracy theories surrounding HAARP. So as of today, the HAARP program is still going on in the form of a research program run by the University of Alaska. And I don't think a lot of people know that, because I think a lot of us still think that it's being run by the US military. And as far as we know, it's not, and it's actually being run by the university. So it's possible that maybe they were using it to weaponize the weather at one point and now it's not going to be, or maybe they're still somehow using it covertly and it's being kept under wraps, and you know, the university is just sort of a cover-up for the HAARP program. But I think it's pretty unlikely, because you can actually go and tour the facility. You can go up to Alaska and take a tour of the HAARP facility. They said that they have open houses fairly often, so it doesn't seem like they have very much to hide. And if this facility was being used to modify the weather and cause all these disastrous events and catastrophes to occur around the world, why would they let the public in to see it now? I don't know, guys. I'm going to leave you with that. I'm not quite sure what to make of the HAARP program. I think it's very difficult to say if in fact it is still being used to modify the weather, or if it was ever used to modify the weather or as a weapon. So I just don't know. But I want to know what you guys think about this. What do you guys think about HAARP? Is there something that I missed in this video that may provide further evidence that HAARP is used to modify the weather or is a weapon? Let me know in the comments, because I want to know what you guys think about this. It's a very complex conspiracy theory, so I want to know what you guys think about HAARP. Is it what they say it is? Is it just a harmless research facility, or is it something more sinister? Let me know. But that's it for me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it interesting, and if you did, please smash that like button. I'd really appreciate it. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. But as always, I hope you all are having a great day, and I will see you next time.